Supriya to formally introduce our faculty.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and young leaders of tomorrow. It's my privilege to introduce before you Dr. Deepti Kodoth. Dr. Deepti Kodoth is a professionally qualified counseling psychologist with extensive training in evidence-based skills and techniques in counseling and psychotherapy. She worked at both the individual and group levels. Her professional training and work experience involves individual counseling, academic teaching, conducting psychoeducation programs, and life skill training, working with both individuals and groups in educational and workplace settings. She holds a master qualification in counseling from the School of Social Work, Mangalore. She was a teaching faculty in the psychology department at the Center for Postgraduate Studies and Research Center, St. Agnes College, Mangalore. As a passionate mental health advocate, her mission is to break the stigma about mental health issues and misconceptions about seeking professional help in our society, along with providing quality mental health services. And her hobbies and interests: reading, traveling, interior designing, cooking. And her spouse, Dr. Vijay Pillai, Chief and Consultant, Head and Neck Surgical Oncology, Narayana Health City, Bangalore. Ma'am, it's really my privilege to introduce you, ma'am. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that generous introduction, and it gives me immense pleasure to be back to RILA. I was a resource person in RILA to 2018, and it brings back a lot of nostalgic memories. Thank you so much, Rotarian John Bruno, for giving me this opportunity, and Rotary Club Paringadi, and all the dignitaries present here, and the students here, the participants here. Thank you so much, and I welcome to the session. The previous sessions were all about a lot of inputs on how to channelize the youth energy, and I really appreciate how Rotary has been molding the youth in the country. I myself grew up in a Rotary family. My father was an active Rotarian, and I was an interactor too. So I have, Rotary has influenced my life in many ways. In this session, we will see, we'll explore human relations from a psychology perspective, how it affects your mental health. Being a mental health professional, I would like to take it more from a psychological perspective. If you have any questions, I'll answer it in Malayalam also towards the end of the session. It's a big topic. I will try to do, justice in half an hour. I may run through, hurry through few topics, assuming that you know it. In case you don't know, please feel free to reach out at any time. I'll be sharing the phone number and the email details as well. I'll just share the screen now. Is it visible? Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start the topic. So we are today talking about unraveling human relations. Basically, we are exploring human relations, how to untie it. It's a huge concept, and how to prepare for the unexpected. The whole concept of unexpected has come because of the COVID, the pandemic thing. Now, why are we talking about human relations? As we know, the technology has taken over our lives, and we spend more time with our phone. I personally feel that our relationship is more with the phone, basically the internet, the virtual world. We panic when the phone is not around us or the internet fails more than absence of our parents or a caregiver. That's the situation right now. Yes, it presents a lot of opportunities to us, and you know, we need to focus on that. Yet, you know, at times pause and see that, you know, it is not affecting our human relations. It is not, you know, we are not forgetting the importance of human relations, because it has its own value in our life, both for our physical and mental health. Now let's see. The objective is understanding the importance of human relations. And since the audience is here, our future leaders who are in the teenagers group, we'll navigate it through a teenager's perspective, changing ways of interaction. As we know, we are all moving from the you know, real world to the virtual world. What are the pros and cons? What are the you know, a good part of it, and what are the things we need to be a little careful about? The potential threats of the virtual world, which can have an impact on us for long term. And the last session will be how we need to prepare for the unexpected or the uncertainties of, you know, the pandemic era. Now, just see relationship. It has a definition which basically says how two or more people are connected, the state of being connected. It includes our, yeah, as you all know, family, the primary inner circle of us, parents, siblings, grandparents, and other relatives. Social circle, which we have, that is friends, classmates, work colleagues, teachers, health professionals, even doctors or dentists, you have your counselors. These are all part of your social circle. And community. The clubs you join, Interact Club is a part of your social circle, the Rotary Club or any other club you form in, you know, in the form of whether for the personal purpose or for the professional academic career purpose. Now, and the third is our life partners. So this is what the key, you know, the main relationships we have. Now, why are we talking about human relationship? Because a lot of studies in mental health has pointed out, emphasized that, you know, it gives us a sense of belongingness, that, you know, we are part of a major system, and hence it gives us connectedness and support. And hence, whenever we face with any difficulty, we know we have something to fall back on, and that is called resilience. You know how to face adversities, how to, you know, come back after adversities or crisis in our life. So, and it also enhances our personal growth, because without human beings around, we cannot. However, technology is there. You know, the human interaction is required for our psychological well-being. Even the definition of mental health says that you need to, it is not just absence of mental illnesses, but your ability to connect with people and have few, you know, ability to establish and maintain relationship in your life. So it is not again about the number of people you have, it is the quality of relationship you have. So when I talk about quality, you know, it is something which is required for your personal growth. Okay, so give and take, there should be a give and take, and you should be able to grow. Both the parties should be able to grow in that relationship. And also researchers have shown that loneliness and isolation remain the key predictors for psychological and physical health. You know, your how healthy are you depends upon the kind of relationships you have, the number of, the quality of good relationships you have. I'm not able to move my screen. Yeah. Now, what is the relevance in 2020? Why are we discussing the importance of relationship? It was always there, we know it, and why are we discussing it? Our family structures are changing. India was primarily a collectivistic society, now moving to individualistic society. We see that joint families are breaking down into nuclear families, and then people are starting to live independently. And also the working hours. In our generation, we see parents after 5 o'clock, but now that is not the case. Both parents must be working, whoever your primary caregivers are, long working hours, and then there is minimal social interaction because even your academic hours are stretched. Everything is available on internet, so our dependence on our the immediate family members or human interaction is minimized, and it is predominantly taken over by technology. And there is a demon of online technology. While it gives you good opportunities, it has a downside. So how do we regulate it? We'll see later. And the societal norms with COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, how, we are all forced to be, in the virtual world. Though it gives opportunities, it has limitations. So with being aware of it, and we don't know how long this will go on. Will this be the new normal? Because people have now seen the good side of it. Will it stay on? Will people prefer virtual meetings rather than personal meetings? So we don't know how long this pandemic will last. So because of which it is important for us to remind and take opportunities to have that personal interactions and maintain human relations. So that is the relevance of this topic today. And we will see it from a teenager's perspective. The reason I'm saying teenager's perspective is teenage is a time where you feel there are a lot of changes taking place. As teenagers, when we go through a lot of physical changes, a lot of emotional and social changes. So, this is the time when you feel that you have generation gap from your parents, you don't feel connected. These are all quite common and normal. You get increased autonomy. This is the biological explanation. It happens to all of us. So basically what happens is you're moving from childhood and preparing for being an adult. So you have increased autonomy, you're seeking independence from parents. Many of you will move out of your home, to pursue higher studies. And there's a lot of confusion now, and it comes with responsibility as well. And you look for more acceptance from your peers now. You want to belong to a group who will accept you. It is a stage where you feel you're conscious about your looks, you're conscious about what people will say. It is a stage where your self-esteem is being built, okay? You have a lot of doubts about your, abilities, so many things. And then there is need for intimacy, a trusting, confiding relationship. You want friends whom you can, relate to. And this is a time when you want, you are curious about, knowing about sex, because it's part of the physical thing, your hormonal changes, and we all go through it. And this is also a stage where emotions override reasoning. Emotional part of the brain overtakes the reasoning part, and hence sometimes we are vulnerable to unhealthy connections because we look for intimacy and we look for acceptance, and when it happens at wrong places and when we are not able to cope with that stage, we may end up being addicted to substance use or bullying, risky sexual behaviors, and peer pressure. Now and when we are not able to actually make right choices, we may end up in externalizing behaviors like alcohol and drug abuse, aggressive and violent behaviors, internet addiction. We may feel isolated, that nobody understands me, nobody gets me. Now let me make internet my friend, and there is enough things to keep yourself connected. So you're getting connected at a wrong place. And then internalizing behaviors like isolation, which will manifest in, symptoms like depression and anxiety. Now, you also need to know what is positive and negative peer pressure. So you select friends, right? You form groups. So it's a feeling, peer pressure is that a feeling that one must do the same thing as other people of one's age and social group in order to be liked or respected by them. As I told you, when we are a teenager, we want to be accepted by our group. You're a group of classmates, you like that people and you want to be that, part of the group. So you do whatever they say. That's sort of a pressure given to. Now, positive ones are, how do we distinguish positive and negative? If it is positive, they take form of encouragement, request, challenge, challenges. If it's negative, it is always threats or insult. There are some people who constantly insult and threaten you. These are negative pressures. If you don't, smoke with me, you won't be my friend. That is a negative peer pressure. Now, positive peer group can help youth learn and practice healthy conflict resolution, teamwork, sharing. See how you have friends in Interact Club. You have a common mission. Somebody is guiding you. So that is a positive peer pressure. If somebody from, these clubs, tell you to join this, that is positive peer pressure. Somebody pressurizes you to be in a negative thing, in a bad habits and things like that. That is negative peer pressure. Now, I would like to, take you through understanding the teen brain, because most of the time, at this time, teenagers come and tell me that parents don't understand us, and then teachers don't understand us, and then parents say that I don't understand. They're very anxious about whether their children will go in the right track or no. Now, this is a biological explanation how teen brain works. You may also, as a teenager, you may wonder, why am I impulsive sometimes? Why is that, people say that teenagers need adult supervision in whatever they say. Why should we take their advice, You see, when we are teenagers, it is like a car, a powerful car, but with a malfunctioning brake. Okay, your brake is not fully functional, but other parts are, you have got a powerful engine. That's why you can learn well, you can do many things. It's full of energy, but the braking is not there. So what happens, it can go, if you don't carefully drive it and maneuver it, it can go and crash somewhere. But what is the reason for that? It is because our brain develops from back to front, and the back side of the brain basically has the amygdala, and the the emotional part of the brain develops first, and only when you are age of 25, the front part of the brain, that is called the prefrontal cortex, where you can make judgments, you can say whether things are right or wrong, can be it fully develops only then. But you're learning the areas which is required for learning, the emotional part, it is fully developed. So, and most of the time what happens is, we take decisions emotionally as a teenager. We respond to pleasure zone, that even the pleasure, where it seeks pleasure, the reward system of the brain is also fully developed. So we look for rewards like, pleasure, like, you want to eat ice cream, then you eat a lot of it without thinking about the repercussions. But the adult brain, by the age of 25, your prefrontal cortex, that front side of the brain, is fully developed. And then, the decisions, the judgment part, whether this thing is right or wrong, that, is fully developed. And that is why sometimes, parents say that please take our, suggestion, before you take a decision, or And that is why, because your emotions or the pleasure zone is more active, we given to some of the undesirable habits, we explore things. But that doesn't mean that, you have to be very, avoid everything. But as you're exploring, take adult supervision. If you feel that parents are not the right person, or you're not able to connect with them, have a mentor as a teacher or a counselor in your school. See, counselors are trained to be non-judgmental. They have to keep things confidential unless you are, there is a self-harming habit or things like that. They are trained in a way that it builds understanding between the parents and the adolescents. And it's a universal phenomenon where adolescents at times feel not connected with the elders. So to bridge that gap, counselors are trained. So now the reason I'm telling you is that, there is a biological explanation, because our brains have different abilities depending on our age. You're very good at learning, and only that the judgment and decision making ability may not be fully developed. So hence, when you are exploring something on internet, do exercise caution, be careful. So that is one thing I really wanted to drive that point here. And the next part is changing ways of interaction. Earlier, our interaction is either through in person. We talk. We know how, when we see a person, we know their body language. We can at least be introduced to our family and things like that. We know whether we can observe nonverbal cues, whether they are cheating or things like that. The whole identity is disclosed. But now, because of the technology, everything, even your online classes, I have students saying that, we miss that, the daily interaction with friends. It is different. It is whatever we are certain then, it is quite different. Now, but because we are forced to kind of, be in this sort of a situation, we spend a lot of time on online, and and what happens is we form virtual friendship, like with Facebook and things like that. You accept some friendships, friend request, and then you develop friendship. So but and again, with the technology, wherever you sit, with the comfort of the home, you can connect with people. It's easy to accessible, and internet has become so cheap that everybody, the time we spend on internet is, we don't even have to think about it. But there are few threats, things where you have to be careful about. It's a difficult call to make. So let's see what are the usual threats we see. Yeah, as I told you, it is accessible. Why it has unique concerns? It has vulnerability of cyber crimes and misuse because of accessibility. It is anonymous. You sit in the room and do things, so nobody knows what you're doing, and it gives you a different sort of comfort and affordability. So it makes it, the cyber crimes are more, and the misuse of it is also more. So let's, briefly see the potential threats of the virtual world. Because of the time constraint, I will just, run through this. If you have specific questions, you can stop me, and, at the end of the session, I'll address it. Now, common dangers of internet usage. Now, because we spend time in human connection, and all the transactions are happening on the internet. The internet, some of the common dangers we see is internet addiction. So internet addiction, what happens is you feel very uncomfortable. You are in difficult, you experience significant distress when you are not connected. And it may come out of as anger, anxiety, and things like that. And more you would like to spend on internet rather than human connection. So, maybe you don't talk to anyone, you can spend days together without connecting with another person. So that is one danger. It can cause a lot of mental health issues. So if you have that sort of an addiction where you feel significant distress without internet connection, that becomes a problem. It has become a huge problem. And then the dark web. The dark web is an area where there are predators who are, looking to see who will not disclose their locations. And this is a place where they, target and, knife users, that is, innocent people, for child pornography, or recruiting into terrorist activities. Unwanted things happen in the dark website. So be very careful when when there is a site which you don't trust, don't explore. When you see a link or a very unknown person, don't go to interact with them, when these things pop up. So whenever in doubt, any suspicion, ask an adult. Even if they, don't, if you feel that they judge you because of that, go to a person whom you trust, a teacher or a mentor or someone else whom you can, talk to. But don't experiment without when in suspicion. Then comes cyberbullying. Cyberbullying, you all know how people are being trolled on internet, how you post how you abuse people on internet, how film stars or even your own friends may post very hurtful messages about body images or anything. And the more danger of being in the public domain or the online domain or social media is that it is permanently there. There is permanence of that and everybody can access it. So whenever you experience cyberbullying or things like that, if you have been a victim of it, talk to a mental health professional, and if it is causing you significant distress. And also please read upon this, because to each topic will take more than half an hour. It's a topic by itself to explain how the mechanism works. There are enough information. Please go through it and read it. I highlighted one last topic, pornography, because this is something, as a teenager, there will be a lot of curiosity about, what is sex and things like that. Or maybe you may just go and say, what is pornography, And this is widely available, and India, we are the third highest consumer of, pornography. And the effect it has on students and how when they grow into adulthood is it's very detrimental. It is lethal, we can say. What happens is what starts as a curiosity thing, it is very addictive, more addictive than drug use, cocaine, they say. So there are enough researches being done on it. It is a personal choice, but when not exercised properly, I'll go to the next slide. It leads to, because of its addictive nature, it will lead to academic and professional functioning. It will impair it, because it affects the wiring of the brain. And your learning curve comes down, and it's more of pleasure-seeking thing that it's always activated. There is subjective distress, and there is sexual compulsivity, more of sexual addiction, and increased aggressive behavior. The boys' locker room incident in Delhi, it speaks more about it's where you have ideas, how to sexually assault a person, because pornography distorts reality. It completely distorts reality, and it also gives weird ideas. And at this stage where you're vulnerable and not able to decide what is right and wrong, you know, it is very easy to get carried away by these behaviors and then believe that this is reality. It increases callous attitudes towards women. You know, a lot of researchers say, especially done in UK, says that people who repeatedly watch pornography, they stick to the traditional, you know, gender roles of women, the bias they have about women. You know, they objectify women. They think, you know, they don't respect women, to put it in simple words. They think that they are meant to be, you know, childbearers and, you know, used as a object for sex, things like that. So which is a very disturbing scene. And this can also lead into adulthood when you get into marriage and things like that. The attitude towards the intimate partner changes. It affects the life you have, and it also affects the desire for having children. So these are the effects of pornography. And delinquent behavior, any criminal, you know, act because of this, it can give rise to that. And then ultimately what happens is depressive symptoms. As you know, somewhere this is not the right thing. You know that, but at the same time, you're not able to, you know, come out of it. And at the same time, we feel ashamed to talk about it. So when all this culminates, it becomes, gets into depression and anxiety. And then you start distancing from people, you know, emotional bonding with caregivers. You don't feel, because shame and guilt will be associated with it. And then there is decreased emotional bonding with the caregivers and the outside world. So I'm stressing the consequence of pornographic viewing because of the rampant the number of cases I see in my clinical practice too. So students, if anybody, you know, you see someone doing it in your peer group, please explain to them what it is, and you know, take them to a mental health professional, you know, or, you know, advise them to do that, so that it can be dealt. You know, you are at a very young age, it can be dealt. And shame should not be attached to it, you know, when you want to work on it. That's a message I would like to give. And I stress this because it affects human relationship, like cyberbullying also. Now, how do I keep myself safe? Seek support and guidance from a trusted adult or a mental health professional, or any trusted online sources. Now, when you have information, though you know, you can train your brain to be alert. Okay, you need information because, you know, it should not, the fear should not become very you know, phobia, like you'd stop trying even the things which are good online. So that shouldn't happen. So always seek guidance and supervision from a trusted adult, like a mentor. And not everybody judges. They all know. We all have gone through adolescence. We know what confusions you have. So please, you know, approach someone whom you think you will have a fair idea, and, you know, and then explore the world. Seek information about cyber threats and cyber security. Your Google has everything. So if you're not sure, you seek what are the advantages, disadvantage. Cyber security, equip your internet, how you protect your house, protect your you know, whatever media you're using with the protect you know, cyber security system. Set boundaries while using social media and any online connectivity. Say no to, you know, things you are suspicious about. Even other relations, you know, if you are a person who cannot say no, you know, you can be trained in that. How it is called assertiveness training, how to be assertive. You can say no to certain things without violating the rights of others. So that is a training by itself. So you can approach your counselor or any mental health professional for that sort of a thing. And seek supervision from trusted adult while dealing with strangers. Self-regulation, number of hours spent, and whom you are connecting with. So I'll come to the last part of the presentation. Now, how to be prepared for the unexpected. So basically now we are all going through a lot of anxious moments. You have a lot of things about your career and things like that. Now accept the situation. The better we accept, more prepared we are to fight the situation. Focus things that are under your control, and rather than focusing things which are not under your control, just see what can you do to help the situation. Seek information for clarity, personal or career decisions. You build and nurture healthy relations. Choose wisely whom you want to connect with. Upskill yourself emotionally and intellectually. When I say emotionally, if you are struggling with self-esteem, you don't know, confused about who you are, what you want to do, or you're feeling low and things like that, there are ways. This is the age where you can build all this, and it is never too late to take help from a professional. Seek professional help. You are experiencing distress, any sort of loneliness, hopelessness, sleep disturbances. And basically, what lastly but not the least, please take care of your physical and mental health. Now, how to do it? There are enough things on the internet. If you have any questions in particular, please write to me. Yeah. Thank you.